Hello?
What's going on, John?
I'm good. Let me get myself situated here. It's actually nice outside. We're gonna put some beers outside. Grass and smokes.
Yeah.
So, did you make it to that? I think you made it to that gig. I saw you posted some photos.
Yeah, I made it to the gig last night, but I didn't stay long. It was raining and shit.
Where was the venue change?
So the Metro, I guess I don't fucking know, man. I'm confused because it was a different location. It wasn't even at the old Metro. It was in a parking lot.
It was an outdoor gig?
Yeah, in downtown Oakland.
Crazy.
Yeah, so I didn't stay long. I went to a haunted house with some chicks.
Oh.
Yeah.
Let me gather up all my shit here. I'm looking for a lighter here.
Take your time, man.
Oh, I'm good. I just got back. I just had to go out and get some supplies, beer and cream for coffee tomorrow. All right, hold on. All right.
Gotta have your cream, dude.
I know. Leslie's like, well, I'm going out to get some beer. Do we need anything? She's like, well, we need cream for the coffee tomorrow. so you know. All right.
Yeah.
Trying to hold the cat back. I just had the cat outside. Cat like, I want to go outside.
Shit.
How
many cats you got?
Just the one.
Oh, okay. The gray one, right?
She's a fireball. She keeps me busy.
Yeah.
No, she barely comes outside, but we got like a patio. Like we live on the top.
I should probably get a cat. I live alone.
Just started coming outside. Every time I go outside, she's like,
yeah. Freedom.
What's that?
The cat wants freedom, right? Run outside.
Well, it's just, it has that whole thing. It's crossing the threshold's a big deal because it's so used to like just being in the the place.
Yeah.
We used to last year. We used to take her out like on a leash, and then she was like terrified. But now she's kind of like, she doesn't do anything. She just like books around.
Yeah.
But it's like, oh, it's Lucy.
Lucy.
It's my little babe. That's my little COVID, my little lockdown buddy. Yeah, we got her right for lockdown.
Yeah.
It's been like 2 years with her. And, then I was gone on, for, on and off for like a year with the circle jerks. So that was kind of like, whoa. She kind of freaked out when I split.
Oh, really? Yeah. Missing Dad.
Oh, yeah. Well, let me up the smoke here. Do you got a tape recorder and all that?
Yeah, I'm recording right now.
Oh, okay. I guess I'm good to go. Yeah. Let it rip, man.
All right. Well, this is another episode of Suburban Rebels broadcast with the legendary John Brannon of Negative Approach,
you say
Laughing Hyenas, and Easy Action. So, was it Alice Cooper or Louis Armstrong, like the first singer that you heard that made you into what the world knows as John Brannon?
Oh, that goes way back. When I was a kid, I used to see, Louis Armstrong used to be on, all the variety shows. That was a big thing in the 60s. And that, that's one of the first, Louis Armstrong was one of the first things that really made an impact on me. Just his voice and, the trumpet. And then, God, I think I must have been, I don't know, like 6 or 7. I started playing trumpet because, and I wrote a book report on him. It was like one of those things like creative writing. Write a story about one of your heroes. I remember I wrote a book report on Satchmo. So that's always been a favorite. I mean that really kind of like took me in. And then later on being a kid, just afternoon TV. It was like, it was like the Batman and the Monkees. I mean, so the Monkees was like the first thing that really like appealed to me, my first, I listened to the radio, but, I mean, when I saw the Monkees, the TV show, that really appealed to me. And that was actually, the first 45 I ever bought. I don't know, it was like 7 or 8. I bought that 45, another Pleasant Valley Sunday. And on the flip side, it was Words, one of kind of the obscure songs. But I totally went from the Monkees to growing up in Detroit, discovering Alice Cooper. I think when it was still like he lived in Pontiac, which a suburb of Detroit, where I was actually born. But it's kind of 30 minutes out of Detroit, and the Alice Cooper thing, growing up with Cream magazine, that was like, I think it started out, I think it was more kind of like a Midwest thing, but it was like, everybody was aware of like Alice Cooper, the MC5 and the Stooges, and of course, Alice went on to, become bigger, more widely known, later in the 70s. But, it's just like, that's kind of how I grew up in Detroit. I just thought, this is what music is. And, you got the three greatest bands of all time that have probably influenced, not only punk, but just, everything else, those, Stooges, MC5, Alice Cooper, just, the 69, to 72, that period. So that was really influential, for me,
Well, I mean, what was your life growing up? Your dad was a preacher, right?
Well, dad was a minister, yeah. I never really thought much about it. I mean, that's just his job. He never laid that shit on me. I've never read the Bible. Like, it's just what he did. It's just, that's that.
Yeah. Did you moved around a little bit though, didn't you?
We moved around a little bit, like just I was born in Pontiac, which suburb of Detroit, and then was about one. My dad was he was going to school, to become a minister, and he went to Drew University, which was in New Jersey. So like kind of when I was like 1 and 2, like I went to school, New Jersey. I lived in New Jersey for a bit, and then he got his first job. It was up in the Catskills, in New York. So I'm thinking like when I was probably like 3 or 4, we moved back to Detroit. I mean, I have faint memories of those years, growing up, basically just, grew up in Detroit, and, various suburbs,
Yeah. I grew up in Jersey, so you got some Jersey blood in you a little bit.
Yeah, if you want to say that. There was always a point when I'd go to, just like early tours, we tour the East Coast, we'd be in Jersey or New York, and all of a sudden I'd adapt the accent. I don't know if that was just because, when I, how to speak, it kind of like, kind of came back real quick or something,
Yeah. So was your first band, was it Fallout or Static?
Fallout was the first band. I was about 15. Yeah. And that, that was some high school shit. We're basically doing, covers, Battle of the Bands, playing, we did a few gigs at like, Catholic girls' schools. It was like a big thing, God, what was the name of that place? Saint something, I can't remember. But that, that was like 75, 76. We had 2 originals. The drummer wrote, but it was basically, it was just the standard, 70 rock hits,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then
cover band shit.
So Static was after that.
Well, Static came after that. They were just, it's like, they kind of, Fallout kind of broke up. They kicked me out because they thought I was a shitty singer. I mean, even at that point, I had the long hair, I was wearing makeup, and you know, trying to be Alice Cooper. So, you know, at that point I was like, you know, and those guys were all into like 70s rock. I mean, you know, they wanted to do, you know, it was like Zeppelin covers, Hendrix, Cream, Mountain. I mean, you know, it's like, man, come on, man. And it, you know, it's kind of right when, you know, towards the end of that, it was kind of like right when, you know, punk was just coming up, and they're like, we hate this punk shit. It was like, you know, I'm always in a band where I'm trying to convince people, like, check this out. I think the punkiest thing that I could convince them to do, the album just came out at that point. It was like the first Cheap Trick album came out, and we did it, you know, we did a cover of He's a Whore. So that was a big stretch for them. You know, they're always like, oh, John, I don't know about this punk shit. You know? So at that point, I think they kicked me out because, you know, these guys wanted to be all classic rock. And I'm like, you know, I'm growing up. I'm, you know, finding out about new shit. Yeah. And then, you know, so at that point, I'm like, God damn, I gotta find some dudes that, you know, want to write original material and, you know, don't want to do cover shit. You know, that was my big deal. It was like, you know, we got to write songs, man, because we're going to be the biggest band in the world. You know, so that was kind of like how Static started. And that kind of started out of high school, a couple of people I knew. And, you know, we kind of took it from there, you know.
And then how did you become a skinhead?
That was actually kind of later. You know, I went through the whole Static thing. And the whole thing, you know, even you know, Static went up to like 81, and towards the end of Static, you know, I'd already met, you know, I was into punk rock. We were in Static, dude. We were listening to Sham 69. Right. You know, I still have it in my basement. I recently just found that, but you know, I had the That's Life poster, you know, the Fanks. You know, we're like, Harry up, Harry, come on. You know, we love that shit. I mean, you know, the thing with Static, you know, we were really into the Dolls and, you know, Cooper and the Stooges and the Dead Boys and Devo, you know, what was kind of going on like that. But at that point, you know, I was going out and, you know, going to this place, you know, the local chain in Detroit was called Harmony House. So, you know, I was going out and buying, you know, the Generation X records and the Damned records and this, you know, the Sex Pistols and, you know, getting the early Sham records. You know, I'd be like, you know, I'd read about them, you know, the magazines and shit. Like, oh, I gotta check this shit out, you know. So, you know, we were kind of, you know, we were at a point, you know, we were like 70s rock, you know, glam rock, you know, just discovered punk. But then, then again, all this English shit was coming out that we were really, really getting into. So, I gotta say, well, just, you know, I don't want to say when I became a skinhead, but when I became a bald dude, you know, I never tried to, like, you know, come off, you know, I was like, you know, British oi dude. I was an American bald youth. Let's just put it at that. So, I gotta say, you know, at that point, you know, I was kind of hanging out with the Necros and stuff. Right. And, you know, they were going to New York all the time and, you know, doing shows at the Misfits and, you know, going out to Irving Plaza playing with Circle Jerks, shit like that. So I'd always kind of like tag along with them, you know, and this is kind of right when I started Negative Approach because it's like, you know, I first met like the Necros and, you know, Tesco, Larissa, you know, all the kind of, you know, the touch and go people and all that. Just, I was still in Static. You know, and I was going to, you know, early punk gigs, you know, in Detroit and stuff. So, it was kind of right when I, you know, started Negative Approach. It was real early on, and then I gotta say, I tagged along with the Necros. They were playing with Ukrainian Hall in '81 with you know, the Misfits. It was like, you know, Devil's Night. It was the night before Halloween. And at that point, I still kind of had like black spiky hair, you know. And then the next night, you know, at that night, you know, John Belushi came to the gig. and he invited, all the DC kids were at the gig, and Necros and Tesco and all that. And, they invited us, to go on to that, that Saturday Night Live, with Fear.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like backstage hanging out.
Yeah.
And I'm hanging out with fucking Leaving and Belushi, and we're drinking beer because we're hanging out with the whole straight edge crew. And then Belushi's like, he goes, "You need to get a mohawk," and I'm like, "Oh damn!" And then all of a sudden, Ian MacKay goes, "I got some clippers." I got some clippers in my bag because they were already bald and shit. I just had the kind of the Sid Vicious kind of black short spiky shit going on. So that kind of happened backstage before we did the Saturday Night Live thing where kind of did the slam dancing for America on TV, and kind of had a mohawk for about a week. After that I went home. I had a mohawk. I came home. My mother's like, "What did you do? What have you done?" She was kind of freaking out.
Yeah.
And then I gotta say at that point I just got fired from this job I had. I was working at this place, the original Pancake House in Grosse Pointe, washing dishes. Because I originally got that gig so I could start buying music equipment, PA and all that shit.
Right.
And actually, I was on unemployment. I just got fired right before, we went out to New York. So, coming up in a week, I was on unemployment. And, I had to get unemployment in Detroit. And there's like, no way. I'm walking into the unemployment place with a mohawk, So at that point, I just shaved the rest of it off, I mean, at that point, being bald and shit was kind of, shocking. I mean, everybody's bald now, but it's like, at that point, I guess it was kind of shocking. So, at that point, the mohawk came off. That lasted like a week, and then, I was bald. There was a handful of us. It was like the Necros and my buddy Mark Berry. It was a handful of bald American youth, we'll put it that, because we never really called ourselves skinheads. It was just kind of like, what was going on at the time.
What was the skinhead oi scene like in Detroit in the 80s? Was there a lot?
I gotta say, it started out, right when Negative Approach was starting. We're already jamming out to a lot of. If you want to call it oi, to us it was just punk rock. We're all jamming out to we're already jamming out to Angelic Upstarts and Sham and Cockney Rejects and all that stuff. To us those were just like punk singles. And then I gotta say, like, right when we go to the record stores, we pick up the Enemy and Sounds and shit, and then we kept reading about all this shit like oi. And the skinhead riots, at every gig. Yeah. And then, at that point, I went to the record store, and it was like, sure enough, the first Oi album was out, Oi the album.
Mm-hmm.
So, I had that real early on, when Negative Approach started. And, and I thought the best track on the whole fucking album was Chaos by the Four Skins. Yeah. So, that totally appealed to me, his voice and, the music was simple. I guess I really wasn't paying too much to the lyrics at that point. But that was like, one of the first songs that, Negative Approach covered. That was in all the early sets. And we did that for years. We don't do it anymore. It's kind of, kind of hard to do now. But we were really influenced by that. And it's like, I gotta say though, the whole oi thing, for me, it really went back to, a lot of it just sounded like early Glitter, glam rock. Mm-hmm. With the chanting, the football choruses and the heavy, the heavy choruses and stuff. So I was already into that as a kid, but when we heard the Oi shit, the music was simple. We're like, oh, this is kind of like stuff we could play, but it still has, that teen anthem, the shout out thing going.
Yeah.
So, I was always like, teen anthems and, the heavy vocal chorus, the heavy drum beats. So, I was always like, into that shit,
Right. Well, how violent were the Detroit shows, like skinhead gangs and stuff?
So, well, I gotta say, when it started out, it's just like, all the people, it's just, I think this was all over America. When it really started out, it was like a lot of creative people and just people that were there for the music. Mm-hmm. And, people that were doing shit, starting magazines, starting bands, taking photos, just doing that. And everybody, it was kind of like a close-knit scene because, people got to look back. There was only a handful of us at that point.
Right.
I mean, it wasn't like so mass accepted as it is today. It was really, everybody kind of knew each other. All the bands got along and played with each other. Then things evolved. They start doing, this bigger shows start happening. Like it kind of, the third, fourth time bands start coming through. Kind of, Black Flag comes through for the fourth time, and then people start catching on to this punk rock thing and slam dancing. That kind of comes up. Then you kind of get the elements of, people coming in. The shows that they're not really there for the music. It's just like they think it's like a license for them to like start beating up people and shit. Then it kind of takes its turn. Then you got the people. You got the second wave of Oi coming out. That's taking that slight turn, towards racism and ultra violence and all this shit. So you got all these kids that were all like suburban, like jean jacket metalheads, jean jacket kids. That's what I always called them because they always went from like, being into metal to like adopting, the British look, races. And then they really got into the real negative side of Oi, where it really wasn't about the music anymore for a lot of these people. So it was the next set of kids. It was a license for them to come, and we're going to come to shows, and we're going to beat up the long hairs. It's like, wait a minute, 6 months ago. You had a jean jacket that said AC/DC and hair down to your butt, and okay, now you've got boots and braces. So and I got to say, Detroit, man, it got really violent, man. It fucked up a lot of shows, and it's like that was really kind of like '83 for Negative Approach, which was kind of like kind of right when the original lineup kind of broke up. The shows were just a drag. It's like Detroit was really just over the top with all these fucking just like, I don't even know what to call them, man. Just complete assholes. They really, they kind of ganged out and, I mean, they were bringing guns to gigs. They were stabbing people. I mean, beating the fuck out of people. And it's just all these motherfuckers, that had like swastikas like tattooed on their fucking chests. But the funny thing is they were all going out with like Jewish girls, from the suburbs. A couple of them. I'm not going to name names. It's too stupid. But, I mean, they really, and then you got a guy from, the West Side of Detroit, all of a sudden starts talking in a British accent. And it's like, dude, you're not in the National Front, man. Get over it. And it's like, and it's just, where the gigs, they used to be fun and just motherfuckers coming to, we got police sirens. Hold on a second. Oh, it sounds like maybe fire. Okay. Just when people, were just coming, I was never against like people, like fucking, slam dancing, diving off the stage, just having a good time and shit. But when you're just coming to the fucking gigs to like single out people and beat up people, it's just like, dude, it just, it was a drag for everybody, so.
Yeah.
Detroit especially, and I've talked to other bands that would tour here from out of state. They're like, man, you got a fucked up scene. I mean, it got really violent, man. I mean, I just, So I mean, at that point, it was kind of like, it was a drag for Negative Approach, and I think the other guy, the original members in that band, because it's like, they're like, we don't want to be the soundtrack for, just these motherfuckers to come to shows and start beating people up. I mean, it just, it got real nasty. And then it's just, like, a lot of the original people that hung out, they were actually music fans and wanted to go and, let off some steam and have fun. I mean, it was a drag for all of them, too. I think they kind of stopped going to shows around that point,
Yeah. Didn't you tell me once the Necros has a skinhead like band, like gang with them or something?
What do you mean, a skinhead gang?
Like a bunch of skinhead friends, the Necros. Then they roll with some people to shows.
I don't know if they ever had a gang with them. I mean, they were like the original bald dudes in the scene. They're the scary looking dudes with the motorcycle chains around their waist, Todd Swallow from Necros and Corey. They were like, they were from Maumee, Ohio, Toledo, Ohio, but they would do shows in Detroit. They were like the original guys that really brought a whole, a lot of that, that scene, that turned us on to a lot of that shit, in Detroit. They didn't have a gang. It was just them.
Man, you told me once. I don't know. You named somebody. They had like a name, like the crew of skinheads that always came to your show.
Well, we never. Let's get that straight. We never used in Detroit or the Midwest. We never used that phrase, the crew, because we always.
Yeah.
We were just hanging out. We never called ourselves a crew.
Oh, okay.
It was just
Yeah.
That's a whole different thing. But we were just kids trying to do shows any way we could, and go out there and do it.
Yeah. Well, when you go on stage, you have to get mentally prepared, or you just throw yourself out there.
I don't even think about it. I mean, it's just kind of like, to this day, I always get nervous right before I go on stage. But it's kind of like, once you get into it, by the second song, you're just kind of in that state,
Yeah.
I don't have any preparation.
Yeah.
I smoke some cigarettes and go to the bathroom about 10 times. Because when I know it's about a half hour before I go on, the adrenaline starts kicking in. Yeah. And it's just like, I'm like, oh fuck. And, to this day, I'm still like, I always get like nervous before I go on stage. And, and I've done this like for so many years. And, and I think, that's probably a good thing. I think if you're about to walk on stage and you don't feel anything, you're just kind of dumb with it. Because I'm always like, my whole thing, I always want to like go on stage. Doesn't matter what the gig is or how many people are there. I always want to play, the show like it's going to be my last show ever. Well, I just, I want to do it. I mean, this is what I do, and I always want to give somebody the best show. So, sure. It's about, 2 songs into it, I start feeling electricity going through my arms, like I'm having a heart attack or something. And then it's kind of like, just put the mic in my hand, I'll kick out the jams, dude. I fucking, usually by the 3rd song, it's just,
Yeah.
I kind of go blank, not blank, but it's just like, I don't feel anything, but I just want to like kill. It's just like a weird kind of electric thing that goes on, as soon as I get on stage, and and everything feels good, especially after it's over, it's just like whatever I'm going through, I always feel better after I play a show, because I feel like I can get it all out,
Didn't you play LSD once?
What's that?
Didn't you play on LSD, acid?
Not LSD, but I've done. This is like the Tied Down tour. It was our guitar player's birthday. It was in Newport, Kentucky. Somebody had some mushrooms. we took mushrooms. This is way back. It was way back, and yeah, that was a rough gig. I think I actually have a cassette of that show. At that point, I was losing it. Trying to, take it seriously was not a option.
Yeah.
It just, I mean, I don't suggest it. Some people, that works for some people, but that was a one-time thing. Yeah, it was the summer of '84 on the Tie Down tour. At this point, I could never do that again.
Did you remember all the lyrics?
I listened. It was like years ago. I listened to the tape, and I'm like, "Oh, this is horrible." I mean, the one thing I remember, we're doing a version of, Nothing. We're playing Nothing, and I kind of sang half the song, then I kind of didn't sing because I think I was tripping, So I don't know what the audience thought. It was definitely one of a kind gig. It just that I don't ever want to repeat again.
Yeah. Well, why was the band so short lived?
The original Negative Approach?
Yeah, the original. After 2-3 years, you guys
just what do you mean? Well, those it just got to a point. Just it's kind of like '83. It was right before we recorded Tied Down, and those guys wanted to do different kind of music, and it kind of came right up. And it was like Chris and Chris Opie and Rob. They just wanted to play different music, and it's like I kind of wanted to get harder, and at that point they were really kind of, I don't want to say pop music, but they were just kind of into a different vibe on music, and I wasn't digging the shit they were bringing, and they weren't digging the songs I was writing, and it's like I really had it out with the guitar player. At one point he's like, "We got to change the name of the band." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And then he was like, he'd always get on my case. He goes, "John, I hate all your negative lyrics. This ready to fight shit, I don't like it." So it's like all your lyrics are so negative. I go, "How is that negative, man? That's a fucking anthem." Yeah. And and it was like, "John, I just saw this movie called Force 10 from Navarro. We should change the name of the band to Force 10. And I'm like, no. So, at that point we were always butting heads. And then, there was, a couple points we were doing gigs with the Bad Brains. And those dudes were coming to practice. And with their version of a reggae song, they're like, "I think we should start playing some reggae." And I'm like, no, man, this is just so wrong. I'm gonna leave it there on that one. But yeah, it just I wanted to get harder. And if it wasn't this, it was another thing where those guys, it's hard to say. I got to say it's like people growing up and getting into different kind of shit.
Right. Yeah.
You know, I wanted to keep doing something, bring it to another level. You know, they wanted to bring it shit to the table on their level, and it just wasn't there.
Yeah.
So it kind of broke up when it did, and those guys actually quit. Before we recorded Tied Down, and then I was kind of like, well, we got all these songs, man. We should record this shit. So I had to talk those guys into even going into the studio to make the Tied Down album. Because at that point, that's everything, that I had built up to that point. And then I was thinking, like, God, we got all these fucking songs. And then, Touch and Go Records wanted to put it out, and I'm like, I don't know what the future is of the band, but we went in there and recorded it. So, I'm glad we got to document that. It's like how we sounded that day. But the record's still out, so I mean, they must mean something. So, and then it, well, I mean, we recorded it, and then the band was, they already quit.
Well, besides hating people, what else influenced Tied Down, like, in your life?
Just, I mean, well, at that point, a lot of lyrics are just how I was living at that point.
Yeah.
I mean, like, Said and Done's totally about, we were just starting out. I don't want to say the business. We were just starting out doing gigs, and that was always about, that was about the promoters always ripping us off. We'd, like, do gigs, and there'd be, like, 500 people there, and be like, well, you guys made $27 tonight. I'm like, what are you talking about?
That's crazy.
Like literally, like $27. It'd be like, well, not 500, but there'd be more than a few hundred people there, and be like, well, we gave you guys, the opportunity to play at our club. At that point, that was before we knew anything about contracts or anything. I mean, we really, I got to say, the whole punk rock, all the bands really got taken advantage of in the early days. It's got that promoter aspect thing where they don't give a fuck about you. They just want to make their money, and they always got some reason why they got to get paid more than you. I mean, that's been going on for years. But and just I don't know, just a lot of the songs are just kind of like, you gotta think at that point, man. It's just like I say, like, just not being accepted, peer pressure. I mean, just the shit that goes on every generation. But it was kind of like how we were, feeling at that point. You gotta say, it was just a couple of years after punk was still a dirty word. I mean, you couldn't even say you were in a punk without people trying to beat you up and shit. And I gotta say, the early days of hardcore wasn't much better. At that point, people always wanted to fuck with you. So, a lot of lyrics are kind of like, you're always trying to tell me I can't do something. I'm gonna say yes, I can do something. It's just kind of like, the whole, like, kind of standing up for yourself, saying, like, I know you don't dig me, but, like, fuck you. And it kind of, breaks down and all that.
Right. And that was the same for Nothing and Dead Stop? So.
Yeah, just, that had, various meanings. Just, it's hard to break it down, just situations that were happening at the time,
Yeah.
They try to stop me. Whatever I do, it's just kind of like, I gotta say, kids got it easy today, man. It's all laid out for them, how to look, how to, kids today get bummed out at, their band's together for 6 months and they're not on the tour bus, well. Well, back in my day, it sounds like, the old man, get off my lawn. It's like, I would like to think I was part of fighting the war to make it a little easier for what's going on today. Yeah.
What fueled the lasting Hyenas besides crime?
Oh yeah, we were definitely criminals, but we'll leave that alone. I got it. Dude, I was a negative approach. And the birthday party, came to Detroit and played in '83. It was right before Tie Down came out. And I gotta say, I saw Nick Cave at the birthday party. It was right when the Bad CDP came out. And it was like, dude, I saw that show and it fucking changed my fucking life. I was like, oh my God, it's like everything that means everything to me. That was just, I mean, you got to think, kind of like '83, towards the end of '83, it's kind of like, I got to say, like, the golden age of hardcore was kind of over. It's like everybody that had to say everything probably already said it, and all the classic records were out. And, it was right before it got, it was going to turn the page and going to be the next thing. And, to me, I was looking for different shit. At that point, we had already done that. And then it was kind of like, saw the birthday party, man. So it was kind of like, and Larissa's band, opened up for them. And she had this band L7 in Detroit. And actually, Opie from, Chris Moore from Negative Approach actually played drums with L7 that night because their drummer just quit, a month before, and they had that gig, and they're like, oh, we got to do this gig with the birthday party. And, it was just kind of just seeing that show, I was like, this is probably something more towards where I want to go. Mm-hmm. So at that point, eventually Negative Approach breaks up, L7 breaks up, me and Larissa are hanging out. Right. And it's like, yeah, let's start a band. So, that was a big, influence for us to, go on to do something else.
Yeah. And is that when you met, like, Sonic Youth and Dinosaur Jr. and stuff?
That was late. Well, this was '83 when I saw the birthday party. Well, I met them. Well, fuck. I remember, Sonic Youth and, Dinosaur Jr. coming to early. Well, I think Thurston might have come to, like, some early NA gigs towards the end in New York. Mm-hmm. CBGBs. I kind of remember meeting him at that point. And then, like, later on, '85, when we kind of just started the Laughing Hyenas, we started doing early gigs with Sonic Youth. So we kind of formed that friendship at that point. And then just like a year or so later, Sonic, we didn't have records out at that point. We just started putting records out with Laughing Hyenas, and Sonic Youth got a hold of us, and it's like, you guys want to, like, come on tour with us? So we did a couple tours with them. And, it started a friendship that still goes on to this day, and then, I remember, early Jay Mascis coming to a Hyenas gig. So I kind of met him, right when Dinosaur was starting out. It was Dinosaur at that point. But, so, I kind of, already met those guys and already knew those dudes. So, and then, years later, we're all still friends today. And it's kind of like, we've done various tours with, both bands,
Yeah. One of the funniest things I heard was you puked on Drew Barrymore.
Oh, brother. Well, that was like, okay, that was the end of the Hyenas. It was the late '90s or mid '90s, whatever it was. Just we played this place called Jabberjaw in California. Mm-hmm. And it's actually this little kind of coffee house that they used to have a bunch of punk gigs there. And this was probably like when we were doing like the Hard Times tour. It was kind of like towards the end of the Hyenas. And oh, brother. At that point, God, it's stirring up all this shit. But I was kind of, right before that tour, I kind of just got out of rehab because I'd kind of been a heroin addict for years, and I was really trying to fucking pull out of that shit. And then I was kind of straight for most of the tour. I literally got, the album was out. The album was just about to come out. And I had to check myself in a rehab because I was in a really bad space.
Right.
Did the most of the tour. So of course we get to LA. Somebody offers me some dope. Of course I do it. I'm outside the van. I kind of come out, walk out of the van, and then I see fucking Eric, from Hole. The Hyenas had done some shows where Hole backed us up. It was kind of like before they got big, and Eric's like, "Hey John, why don't you meet my new girlfriend?" And I was like, it was just kind of like, that kind of went down. So,
yeah. That happens.
And there's actually a video of that gig. I'm looking pretty hit, but it's kind of cool in its own way. But yeah, that was just dude, that was just like one of those chance things. It's just like, well, hello, So that kind of happened.
Action.
She looked terrified. She was about 2 feet tall. She was really short, but and then the night her and Larissa were hanging out. But just I think she was kind of terrified.
That's great. Well, why did you bring Negative Approach back?
Well, I gotta say, dude, I was already like deep into Easy Action, and it's like, we're doing Easy Action. We're actually on tour with Radio Birdman. We're doing the whole American tour with Radio Birdman. Corey Russ from Touch and Go calls me up. He goes, John, we're doing the Touch and Go 25th anniversary gig, and I wanted to ask you, what would you think of Negative Approach? Performing. And I'm like, are you kidding? I mean, dude, I didn't even think about, bringing NA back ever or doing those songs, and it was like, hold on a second, I gotta go inside and take a piss real quick. I can keep talking, but
yeah.
And it was kind of like, it was kind of like, whoa, man, this is kind of heavy. What are you talking about? Because I never thought about doing that or anything.
Right.
And then it was kind of like, he goes, why don't you call up the guys? So I called up Opie, Chris Moore, because I'm still in contact with him. I'm like, what do you think about doing this? He's like, I don't know. It's just that big, like, I don't know thing. And then it was kind of like, I had to contact the other guys. So I call up Rob, and the guitar player, and then I ended up just, we never got along back in the day anyway. So, and he's like, John, I haven't picked up guitar in 15 years. I don't even own an amp. I'm like, well, they just want to do this one-off thing. And then it was kind of like a thing like, how are we all going to get together? I'm in the middle of a tour with Radio Birdman. And it's like, how are we going to get together and rehearse this? And then, I ended up getting this big fight with Rob. He starts yelling at me. He's like, fuck you. And I'm like, oh, great. Here we go again 40 years later. And then it's kind of like, I'm like, okay, bye, have a nice day. And then, I called Chris Moore back, and then he's like, I go, yeah, it didn't work out too good with Rob. And then Chris is like, well, why don't we get the guys from Easy Action to do it? Which was, Ron and Harold. Because we've all, been friends over the years. We never got into it with each other, and then it kind of came. We're like, oh fuck. So it got to the point like that. It's like Harold and Ron had to learn all the songs, and we actually did like, God, I don't know if we did like 1 or 2 practices. We had a we had to do the rehearsals, you know, and you know, at that point we're kind of like, I think this was right before we did the Radio Birdman thing. We did the rehearsals before we went on tour of Radio Birdman, but I remember Harold and I were in Philadelphia, and we had to get on a plane to like fly to Chicago, do, you know, the Touch and Go 25th anniversary thing, and then you know, it was weird, man. You know, we did like 1 or 2 practices. You know, we kind of put the whole set to get back together. And it was like, you know, we haven't jammed those songs in like forever, but you know, we're like, wow, this sounds kind of cool. And then we actually did the gig. We were terrified, and there was like, you know, there was about 5,000 people there. It was you know, it was a big outdoor gig. You know, they had the whole Touch and Go roster play. You know, all the classic bands and all that.
Yeah.
And it kind of went over really good. We're like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
So at that point, we're kind of like, all right, that's cool for a one-off. You know, it was like, you know, oh, great. And then we started getting all these offers. I mean, Thurston Moore called us up, and he was like, hey, I'm putting this show together, All Tomorrow's Parties in England. You guys want to come out and play with the MC5 and the Stooges? And we're like, what? You know, they flew. Dude, I wasn't turning that down. It was right when the Stooges got back together.
Yeah.
And then they, you know, it was kind of like the MC3, I gotta say. They had you know, it was Mark Arms singing, and it was Lisa from the Bell Race. You know, they'd swap off on vocals, and then, you know, it was this huge ass festival. Where, you know, it was like Flipper, Dinosaur Jr., just like, you know, just all these fucking bands playing, and Sonic Youth, you know, and it was like, we're like, wow, this is really cool. And then it's like, you know, they started the first Fun Festival in Texas. Then we ended up playing with you know, the Circle Jerks when they were still going. You know, and then it kind of like, this guy calls us up and he's like, I want to fly you guys out to Belgium. We'll have Discharge warm you up. Like, what the fuck? I mean, it wasn't Cal Discharge. It was like,
right.
God, I think it was that dude from the Verucas, like, singing for him. I mean, the band was good, but, you know, the vocals weren't there. You know, then we kind of just started doing these one-offs. Then it kind of came around to, you know, we did a show in Detroit. And we're thinking, like, you know, that was about five gigs in doing it. And we're like, that's cool. That's cool. And then it just, you know, we just kind of had, you know, at that point, you know, we kind of had both bands going. We kind of, you know, kept Easy Action. Well, we never stopped Easy Action. And then, you know, the Negative Approach thing, we're like, well, it kind of got to the point, we'll just do this while it's fun. You know? And then, you know, just never stopped getting fun.
Right.
I mean, we still like going out and doing it. So, you know, it's kind of a weird deal. It's like, you know, the same people, but we got both bands. It's just, you know, different, you know, we got to wear different T-shirts, and it's a different set list. I mean, you know, you've seen it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great. What about the tie, Reagan from The Exorcist and your artwork? Why did you guys use that?
That was, you know, that was always like a big influence on me just as a kid, because I remember the premiere. God, I don't know. God, I think it was about 12. And that movie came, you know, I kept seeing the previews. I'm like, I got to go see this movie. You know, it was like an R-rated movie. And it's like, I actually convinced my dad to buy me tickets to go see it. You know, because I couldn't buy the tickets, and he dropped me off. I remember it was with my stepbrother Brian, you know, one of my dad's fucking ex-wives, whatever. It just we kind of grew up together. My stepbrother Brian, and he bought his tickets, and you know, because you know, everybody, you know, at that point, you know, the book was out before that, so you know, I don't know if my dad read the book, but he probably read about it in Time magazine or, you know, whatever was going on. He's like, good luck. So we actually like dropped this off, and I remember, dude, that movie changed my life.
Yeah.
That was like because I'd never been to an R movie, a movie where they swore, and I mean that movie I could barely watch it. I mean I watched half the movie, with my hand over my eyes, going, "Is this happening?" I thought that shit was real. So that was always, that movie, gave me nightmares for months after that scene that, as a kid. And then it was years later, there was a Famous Monsters magazine. They just kind of had a whole layout on The Exorcist. So I kind of had a buddy of mine just take a photo that was actually, the classic, with the images, one of the stills from the movies. And because I was thinking like, we need a really, the Misfits had their skull, the Crimson Ghost thing. I go, we really need like an image that's gonna, kind of project, something. So, I just saw that picture and I go, this has got to be the cover. So, had a buddy take a photo of it, and we kind of just kind of washed it out a little bit. And just kind of became the logo or the image,
Yeah. What do you think the wildest city you ever played was?
The wildest?
Yeah.
I gotta say, on the first tour that we ever did, it was the Process of Elimination tour. The first time we actually went out of town. It was the Necros, the Meatmen, Negative Approach. It was the Process of Elimination tour. The craziest gig, in the beginning, like first off, like our first kind of out of town experience, I gotta say, was Boston, man. And we did this show at the Gallery East, and we thought Detroit was crazy. But we played Boston. I gotta say, those kids were the most nuts ever. That was like, in the beginning. That really, it's like one of those shows you can't forget. But then I gotta say, oh my God, just over through the years, Negative Approach played this show in Antwerp, Belgium once, which is just like out of fucking control. It was kind of like right when we started kind of doing the reunion shows. It was that show, that Discharge, opened up. It was a bunch of other bands. It was like Christ on Parade. I can't think of the other bands that played, but that was insane. That was like, Antwerp, Belgium, and I gotta say Boston. Right off that I can think of like the craziest.
Yeah. What was the best tour you've ever been on?
That's hard to say, man. There's so many, and it's like, it's not always like the best tour. It's like, what's the best night? But I can't even break that down. We just, we just go out there and do it and hope for the best. Hopefully they got beer backstage and the monitors work. That's usually all I ask for.
Yeah. How often does Easy Action play?
Well, right now we're just kind of getting back into it. It's kind of like, after lockdown, it's like, it was that whole point, we're on tour with Circle Jerks for a year, and everybody kept getting, sick and had to take time off. There was a point where Keith was sick for about a month, so we went home. We were kind of like hanging on the East Coast thinking, Keith was going to get better. So, we're on tour with 7 Seconds, so we kept doing pickup shows on the East Coast. We did one in Rhode Island, Boston and Philadelphia. I mean, that was cool, but we were kind of sitting in a hotel, waiting for the word, is Keith going to be better? And then eventually, it wasn't happening, so we had to go back to Detroit. So I go back to Detroit, we chill out till he's like better, to resume the tour. And then I see Mudhoney's playing two blocks down from my house. This place called the Magic Bag in Ferndale. So call up Mark Arm. I was like, you guys got an opener? he's like, yeah. I go, How about Easy Action jumping on that bill? So Mark's like, fuck yeah. So, you know, at that point, we hadn't really done the Easy Action shit in a couple of years, you know, because, you know, and then we rehearsed and we did that show, so we're kind of jumping back into the Easy Action thing, and then we did, God, what did we just, I can't even remember. We did one in Texas. We had a day off from the Circle Jerks show in Austin, Texas, so, you know, it's just easy for us to flip the script. Like I said, it's all the same 4 dudes. It's just a different set list. So we did a show with Mugger from Austin, Texas, and Xander actually. He just put out Xander from Circle Jerk just put out a solo album. So he kind of opened the show up, you know, with his deal, and that was kind of cool. And then I got a show coming up in about a week with Alec Mackay's new band, Hammered Halls.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like we're doing a show down at, Third Man Records. You know, they got that place set up. You know, they got a stage and all that shit. And they do cool shows. So our whole deal is like, we're kind of back. We've been on and off tour with Circle Jerks for like a year. So it's kind of like, hey, we're and they just re-released the first 2 Easy Action albums, on Reptilian Records. So those are back in print. Those have been out of print for years. So it's kind of like, those never really got the push back in the day because it was all limited budget. But it's like, those are like, I dig those records. I think those records are really good. So, it's good they're going to see the light of day. So that shit's out now in the stores, and so we're trying to get the I'm doing the Negative Approach shit for the last year, so it's kind of like we're trying to put Easy Action's foot back in the door and just saying, hey, we're still a band. So
are you recording anything new?
Ron's been coming. We kind of lost, after lockdown, we kind of lost our practice space, but Ron's been coming over and him and me been jamming on the couch. So, yeah, we're trying to get some new songs together. And we already got a couple people there. Like, as soon as you guys got this together, man, come record. So I gotta say the Easy Action, a new recording, Easy Action is gonna come up before anything else. We're working on it, and it's kind of weird because it's like. And now, now that we're back from tour, everybody's like out of town and not in the same place. But me and Ron are getting together, and we're trying to, let's make this shit happen, man. It's just like new shit out.
Would you ever try to write any Negative Approach new songs or nah?
I mean, if we wrote something and we thought it was a Negative Approach song, maybe we might go there. I mean, that's a hard one to like, do. I mean, it has to be totally like brutal. It's kind of, and we're right. We're never saying like, oh, it's going to be this song. It's going to be that kind of song. It's kind of like, that's why it's cool with Easy Action. I mean, there's no pressure because we're all over the board. I mean, we do like this kind of song. I mean, it's not like it's kind of, I don't want to do anything forced, saying like, oh, I've got to write this kind of song. I mean, whatever comes out, and then something we want to work with. If it's good, we'll go with it. But I gotta say, like, if we're jamming and something comes out, and be like, fuck, this is a Negative Approach song. I mean, it might be that at that point, but it's hard to say.
Yeah. Do you think you're the angriest singer in hardcore?
No, man. There's got to be angrier dudes than me, man. There's a lot of angry kids out there. I get tagged on that shit, but it's like, I don't know what to say about that shit. What about Angry Anderson from Rose Tattoo? He calls himself angry. So it's like, maybe he's got that. Maybe he's got that one on me. Yeah.
You might have an angrier face, though. What do you do in your spare time besides collecting records?
It's so weird. It's just so weird, just like being on tour for last year, kind of coming home and just, you know, trying to adjust. I mean, I'm trying to stay busy. I got something. My mom passed away recently, and I'm kind of, I don't want to get into this, but I'm packing up her house and I'm trying to fucking sell it and shit. So it's like that's like my spare time. That's a never-ending thing, kind of. Getting that situated. That's kind of taken up a lot of my time. It's like since I've been back, I'm just, I gotta, I kind of had to chill for a while, so it's a lot of, hanging out on the couch with the cat, watching some movies. Kind of, it's kind of weird to be home, because I've been, been on the road so long. But it's just like, I gotta take care of some personal business, and beyond that, winter's coming up. I don't really see us touring like in January or February. So, as much as we can do, I want to really get into trying to get something new recorded.
Yeah.
So that's the goal.
Yeah. Well, sorry to hear about your mom.
That was a bit ago. But I couldn't really that's hard to talk about, but it's like, it's a never-ending thing that, it's always on my mind, and I'm trying to situate her place and get that sold.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, what does rock and roll mean to you?
Well, it's everything, man. Like, to me, it was like, just, that's a hard question, dude. It's just like, I sold my soul for rock and roll. What am I gonna say? It's like, no, I didn't sell it. I mean, it's, it's something that, I live for. It's just, for me, it was total expression, and an outlet, and just some way to stamp out boredom. And I dig rock and roll. Put another dime in the jukebox, baby.
Yeah. Well, you got any last words, John?
I don't know, man. Just kids, stay in school, stay off drugs, don't date your coworkers, and don't start a band, because it's a fucking hard road, kids.
Thanks, John.
I can't think of anything. Yeah. Is that good enough?
That's great, man. Thanks for the interview.
All right, man. I'll talk to you. You never know, man, because I know I'm home and we don't have anything booked, but I know Ron Martinez is gonna call. He goes, I got some gigs for you guys out in California. We've done so many shows in California.
Yeah, there's a lot.
So just when we think we're out, it's like I know something's gonna come up. I mean, it always does. Knock on wood. Thank God. So
yeah.
Right now, I'm trying to, we're trying to just get some business together here and take care of shit and.
Yeah. Well, I'm a negative head, so I hope to see you on the West Coast soon.
It's probably going to be sooner than later, like I said. We never know when shit's going to come up, and if it comes up, we usually don't turn it down. So hopefully something good will be coming up.
All right, John. Thanks a lot, man.
All right, Pete. All right, bro.
Have a good one, dude.
All right, have a good one, man. Good talking to you, man. All right, bye-bye.